Jake, we've heard about the SS bolts that are on your cut. You say that they have nothing to do with the Nazi stuff?
Correct.
Okay. But that's something that was given to you?
Yes, sir.
We've heard testimony over the course of the last few weeks about another group inside the Bandidos that wear the SS bolts. Are you aware or familiar with the Fat Mexican crew?
I've seen that patch. I'm not familiar with them.
Okay. Are you a member of the Fat Mexican crew?
No, sir.
Show you States Exhibit 326. Wow. You know, during the course of this trial, that these are shirts that were taken out of a vehicle at Twin Peaks here in Waco, Texas, the day of the shooting.
Yes, I understand that.
As a president of the Dallas chapter of the Bandidos, you're saying you don't know what that means?
About the Fat Mexican crew?
Correct.
Honestly, I don't. I've seen it around. There's no one in North Texas that has that I know of.
But they wear the double lightning bolts just like you do?
Yes, among other brothers that wear it, yes.
Jake, you were aware of what happened to Bandito Row in March of 2015. We've talked about that at length.
Yes, sir.
You also talked about I am my brother's keeper, and that's something that's very important to Bandidos.
Yes, sir.
And important to you.
Correct.
If you're your brother's keeper, isn't it true that you wanted to get revenge or retribution for what happened to Bandito Row?
No, sir. No.
It would make sense that somebody who is their brother's keeper would want to make sure that their brother's assault did not go unpunished.
No, sir. It means I do want to protect my brother. And if I'm there and an assault happens, I will protect my brother. But no, it does not mean that I'm going to go retaliate for an assault like that. No, sir.
Like your brother said, we don't start fights, but we finish them.
Correct. We don't start fights.
You didn't start the fight in Lorena.
No, sir.
But it got finished on May 17th, didn't it?
Not at all. That's two completely different events.
With the same groups?
Yes.
Your Honor, the defense has no objections to State's Exhibit 1082.
State's Exhibit 1082 is admitted.
Backtrack once again, Jake. States 117, the flag that was taken by the Cossacks, from the Cossacks by Jughead. You in fact had a conversation with him, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And the date on this was April the 22nd of 2015. Is that right? Sound about right?
That sounds right. I'm not sure.
Jughead started the conversation and said, pool players tagged the wall at Midway. Your response was, huh? What did it say? And then he sent you a photograph, correct?
Correct.
What is Midway?
It's I believe it's a bar in North Dallas.
Okay.
Or it was a bar.
And this is the photographs he sent you, is that right?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Cossacks MC tagged at that bar.
Yes, sir.
What'd you think about that when you saw it?
That's a bar we frequent, and I was under the understanding that I guess they came in there and wrote it on the wall.
Okay. Jughead said, was today. And how did you respond? Go ahead.
Fuck them faggots.
Fuck them faggots. He said they may still be here.
Correct.
You said, are you there?
Correct.
Jughead says, yeah, I'm not alone, and you say, okay.
Correct.
Your response was, I'm not far away if you need me, and I'm packing. What does that mean, Jake?
That means that I wasn't very far if he needed If you needed me,
Okay.
I can be there.
Are you packing a lunch, or what were you packing?
Probably a pistol in my vehicle.
So you're telling Jughead, I'm not far away, and I've got a gun if you need me.
Yeah, if he was in a jam, I would go help him out.
He says we're good.
Correct.
You respond, scratch that shit off the wall. Why'd you say that?
Just to scratch it off the wall. Yeah.
So you're telling him to scratch a wall? Why?
Well, yeah.
The reality is you didn't want the Cossacks claiming your turf at a bar.
Well, no, that's not correct.
And you directed a member of your support clubs to do that, correct?
I took it as a jab from them because that's somewhere they frequented. Kind of like saying, hey, we know you guys come here. So they wrote their name, and I asked them to scratch it off, yes.
You didn't want that.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Jughead responds, we did. You say, cool. You check in on Jughead later on that night. You say, you guys make it home? Jughead says, LOL, just got the banner from Billiard Den. And then tells you he's home.
Okay.
Jughead says, want to see a pic? What's your response?
Well, at that time, I didn't know what he was talking about, but I said, haha, yeah.
And then he sends you a picture, right?
Correct.
And that's the picture we've already seen in State's Exhibit 117, correct?
Yes, sir.
The one I showed you now it's really dark, but that's
yes,
a picture of Jughead with the banner.
Yes, sir.
Jughead says, you meant yeah for a pic, right? Your response? Yes, hell yeah.
Yes.
Okay. He said, okay, good. Thought I was in trouble.
Yes, sir.
You weren't disappointed with Jughead for taking that banner, were you?
Well, after that, I was. I think I slept on it. The next day, I contacted him and his president.
Okay. Show you States 302. That's your father's motorcycle, correct?
Yes, sir.
I do gang things. Is that a literal patch, or is that a secret meaning that means the exact opposite of what it says?
That's a sticker.
Okay.
And it's just a play on words, man. We're looked at by y'all you look at us like gang members. So if that's the way you're going to look at us, we kind of.
Let's talk about the Bandidos in regards to that, Jake.
Yes, sir.
Are there 3 or more members of the Bandidos?
Yes, sir.
Do you have common signs and symbols that you all share?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have a identifiable leadership structure?
Yes, sir.
And are you aware of crimes that are regularly committed by Bandidos?
I think it says regularly and continually.
Regularly
and I
and continually.
disagree with that part.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know of assaults that are regularly committed by Bandidos, right?
Well, I've been hearing about assaults committed against Bandidos.
Okay. Well, other groups can be gangs too, can't they?
Yes, sir.
And then by some people's own admissions, they do gang things.
I see how it looks, but yeah, it's a sticker. It's a play on words. I believe if we actually were gang members and participated in gang activities, we sure would not put it on our bikes.
God forgives, or GFBD, what's that?
God forgives, Bandidos don't.
What's the meaning there?
I guess we're not as forgiving as God, but
Okay.
and it's that also is a sticker and a patch we've had for years, the club's had for years.
So when something bad happens to a bandito, bandidos do not forgive and they do not forget. Is that right?
Right. Doesn't mean we go and retaliate.
You just don't forgive? There's no retaliation part to that?
No, not necessarily.
You told us yesterday that you thought the Bandidos were a group of bad guys, criminals, and gang members before you became a Bandito, right?
Yes, sir. Well, yes, that was an image that I had seen, or yeah.
Does that image include behavior like what happened at Twin Peaks?
No, I think Twin Peaks was a completely different, completely unheard of before then.
Jake, we've heard that you were in jail for 26 days before you bonded out. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
While you were in jail, you talked to a number of people on the phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who's Caitlin?
I think one of the brother's daughter, an ex-girlfriend.
What brother?
Daubers, but I know him by.
Do you remember having a conversation with Dauber on the phone while you were in jail?
I don't remember. I might have.
Okay. I'll ask you, and if you want to listen to the audio, we can do that. But do you remember the conversation where you spoke with Caitlin for a while, and then she put Dauber on the phone?
I don't remember the conversation, but yeah, it sounds right.
Okay. Do you remember Dauber saying, "Hey, what's up, bro?"
Oh, yeah.
And your response to him was, "Just trying to outdo you."
Yeah.
What'd you mean by that?
I think jokingly, just being more of a stand-up brother. You know, that's,
Okay.
I guess, what I meant.
Dauber said,
I'm going to object, Your Honor, to the hearsay.
well, Jake, would it refresh your memory if I played one single phone call for you about what the conversation was?
And I'm going to object to improper impeachment or refreshment. Are we going to just
Certainly
play
not.
audio recordings and court?
If we would have to do it, we could do it outside the presence of the jury. I'm asking if you recall the phone conversation.
I recall talking to him.
And you said you were trying to one-up him. What were you referring to?
I guess being a stand-up brother, I guess. I don't know.
Well, before Twin Peaks happened, Dauber's in a little trouble of his own, isn't
I'm
he?
going to object, Your Honor, to the relevance of this.
He said he was trying to one-up the person that we're talking about, Dauber. It's very clear on the phone call what he means.
I'll overrule the objection.
Dauber get in trouble as a bandito.
Well, yes, he has.
And is he currently under indictment?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, to specific instances and irrelevance.
Judge, it goes to the context of this conversation.
At the time of the charged offense, what does that have to do with whether or not Jake Carrizal is guilty of the charged offense on May 17th? That is my objection to relevancy.
And because Jake Carrizal said, "I'm trying to outdo you."
I'm going to overrule the objection.
Dauber charged with a crime.
He is.
What's he charged with?
I'm not sure. He wasn't at Twin Peaks.
He was at a bar in Fort Worth, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Where a man lost his life.
Correct.
And Dauber's charged in that offense.
I'm
And
going
that
to object again, Your Honor. This has been excluded already earlier in this trial. This is improper. It's improper cross-examination. It's violating the court's previous rulings.
Overruled.
and that's not what I meant by it.
I'm gonna let you explain it, but Dauber is charged with engaging in organized criminal activity revolving around a murder. Correct?
I guess so. I'm not sure what his charge is, but
The first words when you talked to Dauber and he said, "What's going on, bro?" Your response was, "I'm trying to outdo you."
okay.
Days after 9 people lost their lives
I'm
at
going
Twin
to object.
Peaks.
Mr. Carrizal have a moment to answer the state's questions.
I'll let him fully answer the question.
Go ahead.
It was after Twin Peaks, and yeah, he was a stand-up brother that, yeah, I understand he's under indictment. I believe at the time, I'm not sure, but he was a...
And days after what happened at Twin Peaks, where 9 people lost their lives, you told somebody who's charged with killing somebody else, I'm trying to outdo you.
No, sir. It was more of a... Because I think he had been arrested before that, and it was more along those lines. It was by far not trying to outdo someone where people lost their lives. No, I don't agree to that.
But that's the first thing you told them.
That was the first time I've ever talked to him since I had seen him.
Thanks, Jake. I'll pass the witness.
Yes, sir.
Jobber wasn't the only person that was, do you know a bandito named Zombie?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
Was
ma'am.
Zombie present when Jobber was charged with that offense?
Yes, ma'am.
And he was arrested too. Do you remember that?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
And he got a no bill from a grand jury, didn't he?
I believe so.
Mr. Jarrett was asking you questions about the Bandidos being present at Twin Peaks and causing, the reason that the shooting happened was because the Bandidos were there. Do you remember him asking you that?
Yes, ma'am.
May I? Jake, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 480. Did you know that man?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
But you recognized him as someone who was killed at Twin Peaks on May 17th, do you not?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I correct that he was not a member of any motorcycle club?
Correct.
So he wasn't a bandito, was he?
No, ma'am, he wasn't.
Wasn't in a support club, was he?
No, ma'am.
Do you know what the Marine Corps' colors are, Jake?
Red and gold.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 482. See the bandana on his head?
Yes, ma'am.
It's red and gold, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
By the state's definition, that would make him a gang member, wouldn't it?
I'll object to that. No one's accusing anyone else but this defendant at this courtroom of being a gang member. And that certainly would not meet the definition.
I'll sustain the objection.
Well, Jake, aren't you personally responsible for all the people in the state of Texas that wear red and gold and do bad stuff?
Absolutely not.
May I first witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Jake, I'm going to show you a picture that's been marked for identification purposes as Defendant's Exhibit 16. Do you recognize that sticker?
From the pictures I've seen, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I tender Defense Exhibit 16 to the State, Your Honor, for objections and ask that it be admitted into evidence.
No objection.
Defense Exhibit 16 is admitted.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the Gypsies Motorcycle Club, Jake?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they a support club for the Bandidos?
No, ma'am.
What colors do you see on that sticker?
Looks like red and gold.
Do you, as a member of the Bandidos, control how the Gypsies run their motorcycle club?
No, ma'am.
Are you aware if they're considered a gang?
I'm not aware, probably.
Mr. Jarrett asked you about a traffic infraction. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you tell us what happened in your words?
I was on my way home and I pulled off the highway. There's a convenience store about a mile up the road and I was going to get tacos.
I'm going to stop you right there. Did you get off your bike?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you turn your bike off?
Yes, ma'am.
How far from your bike had you walked before you were approached by the police officer?
Well, I had gotten off my bike and took my helmet off, put my cap on, and I saw a police officer pull in where the pumps were. And
So at that point, Jake, let me just ask you, was your motorcycle in working condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the blinkers work?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the headlight work?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the license plate illuminated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And why were you stopped? Why did he approach you?
Well, he,
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance at this point. The only reason for that testimony or those photographs were to show that the defendant was not able to follow bond conditions. It's not relevant to why the police officer stopped him. It's that he had officer contact and photographed evidence that he was violating his bond conditions.
I'm not allowed the testimony. I'm overruled, Judge.
can you ask me again the question?
Why did the officer approach you?
He didn't approach me. I saw that he pulled into the gas pump, and we were the only two vehicles at the gas station that I could see. So I raised my hand, and waved at him, and was walking over to his car.
Why did you do that, Jake?
Because I wasn't breaking any law, so I said hi to him, and actually I said, "How's it going?" as I was walking towards him, and he told me to get back to my bike.
Okay. Did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happened next?
So I walked back to my bike, and I believe he stayed in his vehicle for a while. And then 4 or 5 more cop cars arrived, and I stayed there. And then I believe 2 or 3 officers walked up to me and asked me for my license and my registration.
Do you know why were they accusing you of doing something wrong?
Well, at that time, I believe I asked them what I was being pulled over for, or why I was being stopped. And they told me that I was being stopped for not having a license plate light on my license plate.
And Jake, have you seen the body cam footage of that particular stop?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Okay, continue.
So I believe I gave him my license and my registration, and I turned the key on my bike, and my license plate light lit up. And then he told me it was
hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay.
So did you get a traffic ticket?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What was your address on your driver's license at that moment when you encountered that police officer?
It was my old address.
What? Just give me the street name.
Park Valley, I believe.
Okay. And when you encountered those officers, were you still living on that street?
No, ma'am.
How long had you been? Did you move to a new house?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you been living there?
Probably 6 months, I guess.
Okay. Were you arrested that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
For not updating the address on my driver's license.
Did you even know that was an arrestable offense, Jake?
Object to relevance.
Sustained.
Did it surprise you that you could be arrested for not updating your address on your driver's license?
It completely surprised me.
Would that have been the second time in your life that you've been arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if that was a Class C misdemeanor?
Honestly, I don't know what it was. I thought it would be a ticket, but I was arrested.
I want to talk to you about that conversation with Dauber. Did you also tell him that the food was bad, but
Judge,
the sex was good?
Object to leading. Counsel testifying.
I'll sustain the objection to leaving.
I'm sorry, Jake. Do you remember everything that you and Dauber talked about in that phone conversation?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Would you characterize yourself as somebody with a pretty good sense of humor?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that there is anything funny about the number of people that lost their lives on May 17th, 2015?
Absolutely not.
Is that a joke that you would make?
No. No, it isn't. I lost a good brother that day.
Let's talk about Jughead and that flag. The the messages that Mr. Jarrett was showing you, did they look to be about after midnight? Do you remember?
I believe so. It was late. I believe I was home in bed, or I don't know.
What did you do about that? Well, let me just ask you, in your opinion, was there anything after sleeping on it the next day that was problematic to you about the fact that Jughead had taken that banner?
Yes, ma'am.
What was problematic to you?
It was a dumb gesture, and there's no reason for that.
Did you want it done to you?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I don't remember if I talked to him alone or him and his president, but I made it a point that that banner was to be returned to that bar.
Why was that important?
Because I wouldn't take that lightly if they did that to us. And yeah, it was funny at the time, but after thinking about it, that wasn't cool.
How long had you known Jughead at that point?
Maybe a year. I don't remember, but maybe about a year.
Based on what you knew about him, did you get the impression he was being malicious, or did you think it was a prank? Like, what was your impression?
If anyone knows Jughead, he's goofy, and yeah, he's quite a bit of goofy, and he's always joking around.
Is he still in the club?
No, ma'am.
What club was it that he was in?
The Vaqueros, I believe.
Okay. You told us that you had a brother from Arkansas that met up with you as you guys rode down to Twin Peaks.
He came down for our party the day before and rode with us.
Okay. Did you send him a message about the Twin Peaks meeting?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay. Did he get the message that you sent out about tools?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Jarrett had shown you a bunch of photographs of those motorcycles that were following, that about 20, I think you said it was, that came to Twin Peaks.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you all meet up at that little station on I-35 before you left Dallas?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you physically inspect each one of them to see if they brought their tools with them, Jake?
No, ma'am. I got there late and my front tire was flat, so I went directly to the air pump, pumped it up, and I didn't even get off the bike.
Jake, do you know how many text messages approximately that you had on your phone when it was taken from you?
Thousands.
Mr. Jarrett asked you about some text messages you had with Val. I believe where you slapped someone.
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you with that evening?
At that bar.
Well, what bar was it?
It was where she worked.
What's the name of it?
Strokers.
Okay. Who did you slap?
It was a guy named Jacob.
Is he in the club?
No, ma'am.
Why'd you slap him? Tell us what happened.
Me and Val, we were bickering and arguing back and forth, and we were actually outside the bar, and we came back in, and I thought he was sitting at the bar, and I thought he was hackling me. I was wrong, but I thought he was. I never knew him before that, but I thought he was. Yeah.
Were you both drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
So how'd you hit him?
I just slapped him.
Did he hit you back?
No, ma'am. I think I told him that wasn't cool or something like that, and then I smacked him.
Okay. Did it turn into a fight?
No, ma'am.
Is he mad at you? What happened? Give us the end story.
After that, I left and went home. the next day or a few days later after I sobered up, the next time I saw him, me and him walked outside. I apologized to him. Ever since then, we're friends now. So ever since then, it's been pretty good. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Your apology?
He did. He did.
Mr. Jarrett also asked you about some text messages about your brother traveling.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your middle brother?
Yes, my brother Zach.
Zach. What does Zach do for a living?
He's a motorcycle mechanic.
Okay. And I believe that Mr. Jarrett had pointed out that you had some concerns about his safety.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he alluded that it was because of Cossacks?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Are there any other reasons that you had concerns about your brother traveling across the state of Texas on his motorcycle?
Well, I knew he was on his motorcycle alone, and I knew Cossacks were targeting us. I knew law enforcement is always targeting us.
When you say targeting by law enforcement, what do you mean by that, Jacob?
Well, a lot different than the Cossacks, but yes, our profiles were pulled over for bogus reasons.
That happened to Zach?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that one of the reasons that you were concerned, or that your family had some concerns about him driving across the state?
Without a doubt, yes.
Has he ever had property taken from him?
Yes, ma'am, he
Judge,
has.
I'm going to object to how Zach has been treated unless this defendant has direct knowledge of being there. There's pending cases in El Paso that we've already heard about.
I'll sustain the objection.
So it wasn't just the Cossacks that I guess were harassing Bandidos at that point, was it?
No, ma'am.
Jake, I want to talk to you just about, can you explain to us all why it is that you kept hanging out with other Bandidos even after I came into the case? Can you just explain that to us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Why?
Took a long time for me to realize the reason. Us Bandidos, and especially the brothers that were there with me that day. I love my fiance and I have tons of friends, but that small group is of brothers that they've been through something very traumatic with me, and that relationship I have with them, it makes me feel there's a love there, and there's a tightness there, and I feel normal. I feel that they're really the only ones that can understand what I've been through and what I'm continuing to go through. Out of everyone there, that's who it is, and I know it was against the court's decision, but that helped me get through what we were going through. It did.
I want to talk to you just a little bit about that parking situation, Jake. Had you ever been to Twin Peaks in Waco before?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember seeing those or were there some signs in the parking lot? May I approach the exhibit, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. show you what's been admitted into evidence in State's Exhibit number 63, Jake. Oh, I'm sorry. Defense Exhibit number 63.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see this sign right there?
I do.
Do you remember what it said on that day? It's okay if you don't. I just want to know if you remember.
No, I imagine bike parking or something.
Was it common at those COC meetings, Jake, for there to be special parking for bikes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know pulling into that parking lot at Twin Peaks, and I'll show you Defense Exhibit number 18, Jake. Did you know pulling into Twin Peaks that day that there was a dead end over here?
I honestly thought that there was a dead end right here. When I pulled around here,
Yes, sir.
there was one of those cones or markers. There was one back here, and I'd never been there or even in that parking lot, so I thought it ended right here, and I thought pulling in that this was the front.
Okay. I'll show you the Defense Exhibit number 31. As you pulled in, Jake, I mean, did you just think you'd won the lottery with that front row parking right there? And did you think you'd lucked out?
Well, yeah. Maybe not the lottery, but I knew we were early. Usually at COC meetings, you want to get there half an hour to an hour early to get seating. So I knew we were early. We wanted to order food before everyone got there. So, this was full. I never even saw the bikes that were on this side. So I saw that there was a gap there.
Okay.
I never saw that those bikes were just pulled up. I assumed there was bikes back there too.
Hang on just one. Does that move over?
I think so.
Thank you. All right, Jake. Can you see? I'm going to direct your attention. Do you see how these bikes are pulled forward in these parking spaces here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With the empty spots back here.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a usual occurrence at events like this?
I've never seen anywhere I've been bikers to park like that. I've never seen that.
Okay. When you pulled in, did you see any particular folks look like they were, I don't know, guarding this spot or keeping it open or saving it for someone?
No, ma'am. No, and honestly, when I left this position to go to this one, all I could see was that's when all the Cossacks caught my eye. And when I pulled in here is when I saw them moving.
Okay. Now, Jake, I want you to watch. Do you see this red dot right here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, am I correct? You pulled in this way, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I want you to take your laser, I want you to start over here, and I want you to trace where your bike was the moment that you realized that this patio was full of Cossacks. Can you show us precisely, please?
Yeah, I came in this way, and I think I kind of paused. I don't know if I actually stopped, but I paused because I was going to park right here, and then I noticed this area. So after pausing there, I came up this way, and it was, I guess, right about where my dad's bike is, or somewhere around this area is when I realized that they were Cossacks. It wasn't shocking to see that many bikers on the patio, that I would have seen here, but it was until I got here that I realized that they were all Cossacks.
Got you. Now, Jake, you were also in the courtroom when Mr. Brad Doan testified, the manager of the Twin Peaks.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what he described, where he was standing at the time that you all pulled up?
Yes, ma'am.
In the dining room, I guess, right? Where you tell us. Where did he say he was standing?
From what I understood, he was not on the patio, but inside the restaurant, looking through the windows alongside that wall. I can't remember if he was right at the door or not.
Do you remember what Mr. Doan said about what he could see while he was standing there?
He said he saw Cossacks shoulder to shoulder all along here. And he said he saw them in formation, I believe, shoulder to shoulder.
Now, from where Mr. Doan was standing, he couldn't see much of anything other than those Cossacks, could he?
No, ma'am. I believe that's all he saw.
Okay. Now, the Twin Peaks footage from the inside of that restaurant, that's all in evidence, Jake. But do you remember seeing Miss Corsley
Oh, no, ma'am.
anywhere on that patio looking out to where you were standing when you got surrounded by Cossacks?
I didn't see anything but Cossacks.
Now, Jake, you've seen the footage from Officer Butcher's patrol vehicle, have you not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And during the course of this trial, I also showed you some footage that was tendered to me by the state. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
What was different about the footage?
It was.
Object to relevance, Your Honor. You compared it to
Are you asking his personal observations of the
outside.
images of the images he saw in open court?
I think so.
Compared to one that was tendered by the state, was it an enhanced video? Was it blown up?
Again, Judge, that's why I'm objecting. It's something that happened outside of this courtroom.
Okay. If you're asking him to compare something that hadn't been shown to the jury, I'll sustain the objection at this time.
Have you seen a clearer version of Officer Butcher's video before?
Again, Judge, I'm going to object to this. This is testimony that's outside of this court. There's been
Well,
objections.
it's not testimony, it's an image.
Sure.
And so you're asking if he's seen a photograph.
Yes, sir. I guess a clearer version, a blown-up version of Officer Butcher's dash cam video. Have you seen that before?
I'll allow him to answer that.
Yes, ma'am. I've seen it.
In your opinion, Officer Butcher's dash cam video, does it support the evidence that you've given in this courtroom today?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. That calls for a legal conclusion. It's up to the jury.
I'll sustain the objection.
What was your brother from Arkansas's name, that bandito from Arkansas?
I know him by Hun.
Mm-hmm. Was he hurt that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Was he one of the folks that you texted to bring their tools?
No, ma'am.
If I could have just one more second, Norma.
That's fine.
Oh, those SS bolts. Have you seen those SS bolts that Mr. Jarrett asked you about anywhere else other than on biker vests?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
I've seen them on flags. I've seen the U.S. military have them on a flag right next to the United States flag, with them lined up in front of them.
You familiar with the Scout Snipers in the Marine Corps?
I've heard of them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know, just yes or no, if that's the if that's the SS symbol that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you seen those lightning bolts anywhere else other than on motorcycle gear?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
There's sometimes it's taken for like super sport. I've seen it in like hot rod magazines. I've seen them a lot of places.
So let me just ask you, Jake, are you a racist?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you hate Jewish people?
Absolutely not.
Do you have absolutely anything in common with Nazis?
No, ma'am. I'm Hispanic.
Knowing what you know today, what would you have done differently?
If I would have known that patio was the way it was, no, we wouldn't have rode into that.
If you weren't gifted with that knowledge, if you rode into that parking lot and you saw what you saw,
I would not do absolutely anything different.
do you think you should have stayed home just because there was a possibility?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I wasn't expecting a possibility at Twin Peaks. But no, I wouldn't have stayed home.
Would you have run away and left your dad and your uncle and the rest of your brothers there to fight? What was it, 5-1?
No, ma'am. We rode there together. I was going to ride there with them out of there. I would not have left them standing there.
No brother left behind, right?
That's how I feel.
Thank you, Jake. Pass it, Mr. Honor.
Briefly, Your Honor. As far as violating the bond conditions, you never stopped violating the bond conditions. Isn't that right?
Yes, I did for a while.
Okay. When's the last time you put your cut on?
I rode down to Waco with it on for trial.
Okay. When's the last time you had it on?
Had it on?
Yeah. In public?
I rode down here to Waco with it on.
When was that?
Sunday, I believe. Yes, sir.
So this Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Were you in Waco this Saturday?
No, ma'am. Oh, no, sir.
Okay.
I don't believe so. I think we came down Sunday.
Let me try to refresh your memory.
Okay.
Did you go to a restaurant in Waco, Texas called Hecho in Waco on Saturday?
We went to that restaurant. I can't remember if it was Saturday or
Okay.
was it Saturday? Okay. All right. Well then.
With your brother?
Oh yes. Well, I rode down last weekend. We never went home this weekend. So yes, me and my brother went to that restaurant Saturday.
And you wore your cut to the restaurant in Waco, Texas?
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of days ago?
Yes, sir, I did.
So you didn't really stop violating your bond conditions?
Well, I stopped, but I rode down here. Yes, sir.
And you wore it into a restaurant here in Waco, Texas?
I went into a restaurant, yes, with my brother and my fiance.
Wearing your Bandido garb?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the SS Bolts, you're not a member of any military organization, are you?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
And it's your testimony that you wouldn't do anything different if you faced the situation in Waco again?
If I was surrounded with my father, my uncle, and my brothers, I would not turn and run and leave them standing there outnumbered. No, I wouldn't.
States 117, the flag that old Jughead took. Your response to that was you wouldn't take it lightly if they did that to us.
Correct.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, obviously it's an insult. I would have been insulted by it as well.
And if another club or gang insults you, you're gonna take care of that, aren't you?
No.
Because your colors don't run.
No, we won't leave a brother behind and run. No, we won't, but we're not going to go retaliate for something like that.
And God forgives, but Bandidos don't.
That's a saying we use, yes, sir.
You also use the saying, "We are the people your parents warned you about."
Yes, sir. That's a saying our club uses. I believe.
I'll pass the witness.
Man,
Yes, ma'am.
Jake, help me out. Do your bond conditions prohibit you from wearing your cut?
I didn't think so. No, ma'am.
Neither. Pass the witness.
You were with another Bandido who was also wearing his cut at the restaurant,
I
correct?
was with my blood brother, yes, sir.
And you were both wearing your cuts here in Waco, Texas.
We were both wearing them, yes, sir.
You'll agree that it's a violation of your bond condition.
I guess if you say it is, I was riding with my brother.
Let me ask you this. Is there something about your motorcycle that prohibits it from starting unless you're wearing that cut?
No.
So you didn't have to ride down here with that cut on?
No, I didn't have to.
Again, another choice you made.
Can I clarify?
A choice you made.
It was a choice I made. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Jake. That's all I have.
Why'd you make that choice?
Because I am a Bandido. I'm not a criminal. And I'm hoping that this jury,
Judge,
this
I'm gonna
town
let
will
Judge-
see that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'll ask one more question, Jake. You'd live to be a Bandito. That's obvious. Isn't that right?
I live to be a good brother. Yeah.
And you'd die for your patch, would you not?
I would die wearing it, yes, sir. I hope to be buried as a Bandito.
I'll pass the witness.
No question, John.
All right, then you may step down. Thank you.